So the first thing is we are going to start off with a sum, and in the sum we are going to uh, take this problem, and I'd ask you to actually solve it taking a pen and a paper. The question says that you have a common iron nuclei having mass number, let's say 56, okay? The radius, the approximate mass and density of an iron nucleus, okay? Then find it out. So this is a very simple sum, okay? It's like all of you should be clear about it, okay? So see, I have typed so many things, okay? Something I've copied, something I've typed. So it takes a lot of time, but the thing is, it is very clear here. So what I'm doing is making it clear. So you basically have density. Density is nothing but mass by volume. So you should know the volume. So if you're considering a nuclear radii, it is 4 by 3 pi r cube because it's a sphere, it's spherical. So we will just take that, and then after that we can actually find out what is the volume and then the. But then before we actually go into these topics, what we are going to do is we are going to study about scattering cross section is very important. And scattering cross section, the thing that is there, or you can say in a very layman's term, it is something which is called the effective area for collision. So if you have something which is, let's say, neutral in nature, okay, suppose a neutron is coming and hitting the nuclei. Now neutron is more or less neutral, but the nuclei is positive. So if the neutron is not within the vicinity of the nuclei, the thing is that it's not going to hit the nuclei or it's not going to show any kind of effect. Okay, that's very important. So if it is a charged particle, the effective area will be more, but in general this effective area of collision is very near to the nuclei. So when we say scattering cross section, this is nothing but the effective area of for collision. Okay. So if you consider basically a spherical target, so in general, when we consider the nuclei, we assume that this is spherical in nature. And if we basically consider a spherical target, in general, the cross section is pi r square. So this is a very simple idea that we know. Okay, this is nothing but this is the area. Okay, this is the area. So this is nothing but the scattering cross section. So on one particular side, if a charged particle or an uncharged particle is coming and hitting the nuclei, there is certain region of the nuclei or within the nuclei which will get affected, okay, which will actually collide with the external source. Might be an electron, might be a neutron, okay, or an alpha particle in rather for scattering. So if we consider these, okay, what happens is we have got sigma is equal to pi r square. So unit of cross section, it is nothing but area units. So if you remember this resistivity, okay, I think you all remember this. R is equal to rho L divided by A. So if you remember resistivity, R is equal to rho L by A. What is that A? That A is the area, and that area is nothing but the area of the cross section. So if you have, let's say, a wire, okay, and you basically have this is okay. Cross section is also the same area. So obviously going to be area going to be meter square. But then the order is going to be much lesser. It will be 10 to the power minus 10, minus 20, minus 30 of that order. So when we consider a nuclear scattering, that means what is happening is the nuclear is basically scattering whatever is incident on it. It may be an electron, it may be a proton and so on. Okay. And then what happens, the effective area will be the order of cross-sectional area of the nucleus. So the cross-sectional area of the nucleus. So you know basically if you want to find out the cross-sectional area, you have to know the radius. So you know already what is the radius of the nuclei. So if you consider the order to be, let's say, 10 to the power minus 15 meter, okay, 1 Fermi, which you have just seen in the previous sum, and you just square it, so it will be 10 to the power minus 30 meter. So what happens is when we actually calculate this cross-sectional area, the order will more or less be in the order of 10 to the power minus 30. Whenever you are doing any kind of numerical problem in terms of, let's say, powers of 10, for example, here it's 10 to the power minus 30, okay? Or if you consider something like any constant, okay, let's say Planck's constant you have, and then you are multiplying it with another quantity, the order is 10 to the power minus 34. So more or less the value that you get without the order is less relevant. The order is very important. So please make sure when you do any kind of calculation, it's important. So this is what is cross section in plain words, okay? And then we are going to look into it from a more general point of view from Rutherford's alpha scattering experiment. Okay, so if you consider a gold nucleus of mass number A is equal to 197, so basically a gold nucleus, we know it's basically the standard that was used by Rutherford, and then it has got a mass number of 197, and the radius actually was determined, okay, from the nuclear radius relationship. So R is equal to R naught A to the power 1 by 3. So experiment was performed and the scattering was observed, and from there the constant R naught was determined. Once we know R naught, the A will also have an effect, and then we can actually find out what is the radius, and then we can actually show it. Okay, so if you consider this, the radius, we'll basically see that if we consider A is equal to 197, the radius is going to be 7 for me. I don't think we need to show the calculation here because it's simple, right? We already know that R is equal to R naught and A to the power 1 by 3. So then what you do is R naught 1.2 into 10 to the power minus 15, and 197 ka you take a root, okay, cube root, okay, rather. So it will be, let's say, around 7, I think, approximately, and then you can just multiply it and you get around 7 for me. Okay, it will be around 6 into 1.2, you'll get 17 for me. So you can do the calculation. So that is how it is question. And then the question is you have to find out the cross-sectional area of the target in burns. So if you have not heard about the term burns, let me just make this clear. Basically, the cross-sectional area or the nuclear size, okay, is usually measured in burns. It is got a conversion in terms of meter, okay, and that is how it is done. Okay, so if we just do the calculation, okay, I'm not going to ask you to do the calculation because let's just do it here only. So let me just tell you this very simple. Okay, you basically have a gold nucleus, and then you know number of proton is 79 and mass number is 197. So mass number is more important in terms of nuclei when we consider the radius, also the volume, because nuclei has protons and neutrons and both has got masses, so though both plays a very important role. So when we consider the radius, if we do the calculation, we get it to be nothing but 7 for me. Just convert it 7 into 10 to the power minus 15 for me. We want to find out the area. So this is nothing but the cross-sectional area. You can write it down as sigma. I've just written it as A, but preferably use sigma. Okay, pi r square. So you can just do the calculation and you can find it there. This is nothing but 154 for me. So 154 into 10 to the power minus 28 meters square. Now this conversion is actually important, and I expect that all of you should know this, being a student of nuclear physics for this semester. One burn is 10 to the power minus 28 meters square. Very important. So if you have not just come across this, please note it down. This is not very common. More or less, we study this in nuclear physics. Okay, and this has something to do with the burn. Okay, you know those paddy fields and all. They are actually doing this processing of rice and all in basically something which we call as burn. Okay, there is basically in agriculture they use. So it is actually taken a term from there itself. The people who have designed this term, they have taken the term from that itself. Okay, that's a story. I don't know how much true it is, but it is basically called burn. So one burn is 10 to the power minus 28 meters square. Okay, convert it into Fermi square. That's fine. Even if you don't convert, I think this suffices for you. Okay, so this is nothing but 'Okay, am I audible now? The disconnected, it just got disconnected. Am I audible
Yes, sir.
now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
No,
sir.
sir. It's also
No, no.
interesting.
Okay, just I have not shared the PPT, I think. Meeting started, join, okay. Yeah, screen just got disconnected. Okay, now I think you'll be able to see. Can you see now?
Not yet, sir.
Yes, sir.
Not yet. Yeah, it will come, I think. Just wait.
I can see the screen, sir.
Okay, I think this is okay now. Okay. Okay. Can you see the screen now? The PPT, I mean. Yeah. Can you see the PPT? Hello? Am I audible?
Sir, can you
Yes,
move your
sir.
cursor? Sir, I can see a screen, but I don't know if it's working or not. Yeah, sir,
ठीक है.
it's the same.
Work in cursor. Okay, ठीक है. चलो. Okay, so let's continue. So what happens is basically the nuclear unit is 1 and 1 bird is 10 to the power minus. So this is, and then what happens is that we basically have what Rutherford did was he actually had a 6 MeV alpha particle, and this was actually scattered from the gold foil. So what happens is the velocity plays a very important role. If you have an alpha particle which is coming and hitting the target at a very slow speed, the impact or the change in the path of the alpha particle is going to be much more, is going to deflect much more. But if it is coming very fast, what happens is there is a role of velocity, which is very important. So if it's coming very fast, the interaction time is less. If it's coming slow, the interaction time is more. If the interaction time is more, that means the deflection or the path that it follows might be different. Okay, will be different. Will actually have a greater deflection. So this is important. And We actually didn't know that the impact parameter for any given alpha particle, okay, that was actually not known. And then the calculation of the scattered fraction is based in statistical behavior. So what does it mean? That whatever studies was done at that time and even today is more or less probabilistic in nature. It's very difficult to control or count alpha particle. You cannot just say, okay, this is one alpha particle, this is the second alpha particle, and so on. So that's why there is a burst of alpha particle which is hitting the nuclei, and then there is a number of signals that are generated on the zinc sulfide screen, and based on that statistical behavior, these results are derived, and it was seen that more or less it agreed with all the experimental results and hence true. So these are more or less statistical, and we know that if something is statistical, that means quantum mechanics is playing the role. So that means if statistics is there, quantum mechanics will be there, and then quantum mechanics is there, definitely the thing is going to be more or less probabilistic in nature. Okay, very important. So when we consider a alpha particle bombarding a gold foil of thickness, let's say 1 micrometer, that was actually what was done originally. This was the case was that if there is a scattering, okay, so in case there is a scattering, and then if you say this is the target, okay, I have an animation, but I don't know if I'll be able to show it to you or not, but I hopefully let's see. So what happens is the alpha particle will come and there is a chance that it will actually go back. So if this is your alpha particle, so what does it mean? It means that the alpha particle has had an head-on collision with the nuclei, okay, with the nuclei, or the center of the nuclei, and that's why the deflection was very large. So if you consider basically 140 degree, this is a very large deflection that we are considering, okay, and this is what is called basically scattering. So you understand what is diffraction and scattering has to be one of my favorite question whenever I ask Viva. Okay, what happens is in diffraction there is certain angle along which it spreads. It doesn't come back. Okay, it doesn't come back. But when we say scattering, you cannot really predict at which angle it will get scattered. So it might scattered in all 360-degree angles. Okay, so it's possible. So basically 140 degree is very less because it's like there is only one alpha particle that will actually go and hit out of 1 lakh alpha particle. Okay, so you basically have a radioactive source, millions, lakhs of alpha particles are basically going and hitting the target. One of them comes back. So this is basically considered to be almost as a head-on collision with the nucleus. Okay, so this is important. These statistical values are important, and I already told you that it's important that when you write down in your exam, some values should be there. Okay, being a student of physics. Okay. So the cross section for the scattering at smaller angle will be larger, right? This is quite simple. Idea is very simple. You have more scattering at smaller angles. Let's say the angle is 45 degree or 30 degree. So if it is 45 degree or 30 degree, Ankita, you can't hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anyway. So the thing is, the cross section of scattering at smaller angle will be larger. What does it mean? Okay, let's just try to understand this. So if you have, let's say, alpha particle coming and it is not hitting the target and it is going straight, then the angle is nothing but 0. And if it is coming straight back, obviously in this particular case, this is 180 degree. So this is 180 degree. So that means this is the largest angle possible. On the other hand, if it goes very near and it's an alpha particle, it will get deflected. So if it gets deflected, I think this image you have seen a number of times, then the angle of yours obviously won't be 0 degree or 180 degree, it will somewhere around, let's say 45 degree or 50 degree or 30 degree. Okay. So the cross section is more effective for smaller angle. That means if you consider this particular region, let's say, we will be actually having more of scattering. Okay, but if you consider a larger area, let's say it's very far from the nucleus, there is going to be 0 degree scattering. So obviously the area is going to be less. This we are going to see through an animation. So because the alpha particle doesn't have to come as close to be scattered through the smaller angle. Okay, so basically for smaller angle, it doesn't need to come that close. So even if it is a bit far, it can get scattered. But if it is very near, it scatters at around, let's say 140 degree, 150 degree and so on. Okay, so basically what we see is that, for example, the cross section for a scattering through 90 degree is above 11.3 burns. So what we saw in the last slide was this. Okay, okay, I can go to last slide. So if you go into the last slide, we saw that this area of cross section is 1.54 into 10 to the power minus 28. So it is 1.54 burns. So by 1.54 burn, I mean that this is the effective area of cross section where the scattering will happen. But that doesn't mean that the alpha particle will only come and hit the nuclei. It might be a bit far also. So if it is here and charge, there are chances that it will get scattered. So it might get scattered in this direction. Similarly, along this direction also, it might get scattered in this direction and so on. So if it keeps on scattering now here also I have a scattering effect. So that means the effective cross-sectional area is this much now. So that is much more. So that 1.54 burn is only this particular area. But then if you consider the 7 burn that I wrote in the previous number, obviously this is not up to the scale, but you understand the importance here. This will be nothing but 7 burns. So that means even if you're at a larger angle, there is going to be some kind of scattering and this is going to be around this. So experimentally it was observed that for 90 degrees, so for 90 degree, it means something like this. It will go here and then it will directly go this direction. So this angle will become 90 degree. Okay, so this is 90 degree. So this is important. Okay, rather I should not say this angle, this will be something wrong. This angle, okay, this angle should be 90 degree. Because if it turns this side, this becomes more and more towards 180 degree. So this angle is important, not this. Don't consider this angle. Always consider the outer angle, okay, not the inner angle. So this is what is there. This was what was experimentally observed. So this is the importance of burns, okay. And then the next question is what happens to neutron scattering, okay. But before I think I go to that, I think I should show you this animation if I have it. Yeah, I have it here, but I'm really not sure if it's going to work. Let's see. Or I can actually send you the link to this animation.
Sir, last slide again, please.
Yeah, just wait. No, last slide I will show. I'll come back. Don't worry. I wanted to show you this animation. Okay, this is more important. Okay.
Sir, please make a video and upload YouTube, sir. Because sometimes I miss some slide due to my network connection.
Yeah, I know. I'll upload. Don't worry. Okay. So, okay, the internet is quite fast. So let me just. Let's try this animation. Okay, this plugin is not okay. So my laptop doesn't support this. Okay, anyway, not my laptop, my mobile rather. It has an issue with the plugin is not supported. Okay, anyway, we cannot really go too far then. Okay, so if you just look into this particular thing, okay, see this. Look at the velocity now. The velocity is quite high. I hope all of you can see this. If the velocity is quite high, now I'll reduce the velocity and you'll see what happens. So when I reduce the velocity, even if it is very far, it has got an effect. Okay, it's getting scattered. See, it's going to get scattered. It scatters much more. But if I have a very fast velocity, if it is very near to it, see, this goes straight, this goes straight, this goes straight. It doesn't have that much of a deflection. But then if the velocity is less, even if it is there, it's going to get deflected. These are some simulations which are already been created. So I don't think it's very complicated to understand. Okay, so this is the impact of velocity that it has. Okay, and then if I can pose it, okay, yeah, let me just pose it. Okay, correct jagah pe pose karna padega. Okay, yeah. So you see this, it was coming across this path and it followed this path. The angle is actually more than 90 degrees. So it will be, let's say, around 120 degrees or something like that. Okay, so this is definitely going to happen with Rutherford's alpha scattering experiment. Okay, let me tell you that there's some experiments which can be performed in your lab also. Okay, but we don't have that set up right now. But anyway, okay, so we'll go back. Okay, and I think this is where we stopped with the slide. Okay, we'll go to the next slide now. So now what happens to neutron scattering? Okay, what happens to neutron scattering? Now, one of the most important property or the difference between an alpha particle and neutron is the charge. So neutron is neutral. So that means that the effective cross section is going to be less. The reason is if it is far from the nuclei, okay, it doesn't have a head-on collision or very close to the nuclei, it's not going to show any kind of deflection. For the simple reason is there is no Coulomb repulsion acting. Okay, so basically if you consider the neutron scattering, there is no Coulomb repulsion. So if there is no Coulomb repulsion, obviously there is going to be no scattering as such. And as a result, this effective cross section is going to be less. So since there is no appreciable scattering, unless the impact factor is less than the effective radius for the strong interaction. So I'm going to tell you what is impact parameter in the next slide. I think you've already studied it, but I will anyway do it, okay, because we need it more and more. So, but in this sentence, it simply means that if the neutron is very close to the nucleus, then only it's going to show a deflection. Else, there will not be any deflection because there is absence of Coulomb repulsion. So if you basically consider a target geometry, so in general, target geometry will be a spherical shape. It will have some kind of cross-sectional area, okay? And this is the target geometry we are considering. So for neutron, this target geometry, the cross-sections are smaller, definitely. So like once again, for neutron, only this might be the effective area. But if you consider alpha particle, this is going to be something like this, because it's going to have an effect in these regions also because of the charge. So this is going to happen. So that is important. And then since neutron cross section is going to be much lesser, okay, sometimes we also use the measurement of milliburns. I don't think we need to think much about this. This is a simple idea. Take burns, and if it is too small an area to consider, we can actually consider it in terms of milliburns. Just take it 10 to the power minus 3. So then, since I talked about impact parameter, what is impact parameter? So if I go by a very bookish definition, impact parameter basically is defined as the perpendicular distance between the path of a projectile and the center of a potential field created by an object that the projectile is approaching. So you have a particular center and then you have the alpha particle. Let's say it is not having a head-on collision. It is basically going through a vicinity. So it is going to get deflected. By how much it gets deflected is actually something from where we can actually get the idea of impact parameter. So if you just look into this diagram, okay, very simple diagram. What happens is this is the alpha particle trajectory. So you have got the alpha particle here, and then this is the nucleus. Now the nucleus is positively charged, alpha particle is positively charged, so there is going to be a Coulombic repulsion, and then it is going to get scattered. So it gets scattered by an angle, let's say theta. As I told you, don't measure this angle, this is wrong. Okay, this is the scattering angle we have, okay? And then how much distance it has, okay, the perpendicular distance from the point at which it got deflected is called the impact parameter. So I think this is a very simple idea here. What happens is at this particular point it is getting deflected. So it is getting deflected. How do you draw the impact parameter now? This is one of the simplest diagram that I got, okay? how you draw the impact parameter. So you know at this particular point it gets deflected. You just draw a tangent to this. I think we can easily draw a tangent. Okay. And then we can actually draw a straight line, and then from this intersecting point to the center of the nucleus is something which is called the impact parameter. Please note this is just drawn on a page, okay, on a copy or on the screen. This is not obviously up to the scale, okay. You at some point might argue that why not from this particular point, okay. You might say, okay, from this particular point. Even if you take it, it's not going to make much of a difference because the order is not going to change much. Okay, so that is basically what is called an impact parameter. So the trajectory plays a very important role. So in general, if you consider a neutron, the impact parameter is going to be totally different compared to that of an alpha particle. So what does it tell me? It tells me that impact parameter is dependent on what kind of particle, okay, or material is basically incident towards the nucleus. So it gives me an idea about that also. That is very important. Okay. And of course, it tells me the velocity also. As I've shown you in the animation that if the velocity is very high, the deflection might not be that much. It might be much lesser. It might be somewhere here. Okay. Maybe I can draw. So it will be here, somewhere here. Okay. It's going to be something different. Okay. So then this is going to happen. Okay. And then it depends on the velocity, of course. So we are going to see to look into more into these things. Okay. Okay, J result declared, you can see. Okay, so we have got V is less the velocity, and then the velocity here is more. So if the velocity is more, the deflection is basically going to be more or less different. Okay, so